49ers Ultimate Report. This is John Jay, your 49ers reporter, opinionist, analyst, and die-hard fan. Welcome to another episode of the 49ers Ultimate Report. This is the Candlestick Point Report. Hopefully you enjoyed today's show. As you know who is going to be on the panel with me, my co-host. But before we bring him in, I want to give a major shout out to all my subscribers, all my followers, those who support my channel. Really appreciate in this wonderful now 2-year journey on YouTube as we continue growing every day on this wonderful YouTube channel, Talking 49ers Football. But let's get into the episode and bring in my co-host, not just my guest, but my co-host for this show, his own YouTube channel, Talks 49ers Football, Shifty. What's up, man? Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, John. Good to see you again. Glad we're able to do this again pretty quickly. Love to be here. Stoked to talk some 49er football. There's definitely things to talk about today.
Yep.
Can't wait.
Yep. True. And every day on my channel is 49ers football every single day. And of course, with my NFL Network podcast, the It's Gridiron All Day podcast, we've had some great off-season shows talking to some great fan bases and also talking to Shifty. But as the season gets closer and closer, this off-season is running out. So we have very few episodes left of the It's Gridiron All Day podcast network. So it's always fun talking to all the great members of this great journey. As we start getting closer and closer to training camp, the off-season podcast will end for the first season, and we'll be back next offseason talking football. But before we jump into the episode, just like always, I want to say what's up to those in the chat. And we got my boy Bryant in the house, always in the chat, always in here, even when he's working. And for whatever the reason, Bryant, I do not recommend driving while you are watching my show because I want you to be safe, man. But he's always watching my show, so shout out to Bryant. Carcass is in the house, and you know who Carcass is. Good dude, right? Yep.
Carcass is a good guy.
Yep. He's the future. One day he'll be better than all of us. All right. And Brian calls me the GOAT, which I'm not the GOAT yet. Hopefully one day I'll have GOAT status. Carcass says, "What's up, Shifty?" as well. So he's giving you a shout out. And
what's
again,
up, Carcass? Good to see you.
And if you've missed the episode of Shifty and Carcass, you gotta go check it out. That was a great epic show. I enjoyed it. All right. We have our resident Bears fan. Let's say hello to, his name is Michael. What's up, John J? San Francisco worse than everybody. What are your thoughts on that on that little San Francisco worse than everybody?
Hey, we're a city of champions here, Niners, 5 Super Bowls. Who just won the NBA championship? Oh, yeah. Those Golden State Warriors did, So worse than everybody. I think you got some explaining to do, Michael. You got some explaining to do.
And see, all the jokes aside, what do you think about the 49ers are going to do with Jimmy Garoppolo? And I think we're going to talk about that later in the show because we are going to talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. So, yes, and I will say this to Chicago sports fan guy. Again, I know you're a Bears fan. You want your team to beat my team. We'll see what happens week 1. We're getting closer and closer. Less than 2 months away now from that epic showdown. And I have never been pumped for a week 1 showdown against a team. I wasn't really interested, but this guy has made me so interested in a Bears 49ers game. I don't know about you, if you're going to be interested in that week 1 game.
Oh, of course. If we think back to the 2021 draft, it was all, Trevor Lawrence going 1, Zach Wilson 2, but who are the Niners going to take 3? A lot of people wanted us to take Justin Fields. Some people, Mac Jones. I was really happy with Trey Lance, but now we get to see these guys go head-to-head week 1. It's going to be a good game. Plus, I'm glad that we don't play Chicago in December when it's freezing cold. Too,
mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I personally do not care if it's week 1 or week 18. I'll play whatever game versus Chicago. And again, we knew that when they put the Bears in the schedule, we were going to play them again because last year we played them Now we're gonna play the Bears this time week 1 because I think we played them just mid-season. So yeah. Spy Nick Danger, how are you doing? First time I've seen you on my channel. How are you doing? He says, "Go Niners." And yeah, go Niners to you. Welcome to a great show here on the 49ers Ultimate Report. If you have not heard, my name is John Jon, no H, and this is my boy Shifty. Check out his YouTube channel. He's a good dude. He says, "Go Bryant." So he must be one of the friends of Bryant. And hit the like button. Appreciate that. Those are really kind words. This guy is Fialua60 out in the great state of Hawaii. Aloha. What's up, man? Aloha and mahalo out there to all the Hawaiians. He says, "Go Shifty." So I think he also knows.
Oh yeah, Spy Nick Danger. I like your style.
Spy, what's up? And he says, "Go John." Let's see. The Bears fan says, "We are facing you in a dome herd. We are building one in Soldier Field." I don't know what that means. But anyway, let's start the show. Just like we always start the show in great fashion. What is on your mind? So we're going to start the show always with the guests, starting the show, getting, the feel of what they want to talk about. So Shifty, what is on your mind? What have you heard or anything that you want to spotlight before we start the show? So anything you want to, yeah, go ahead.
Sweet. I think the big thing that's happened, since we last spoke was, Baker Mayfield traded from the Browns to the Panthers, and that now leaves one less team potentially. Well, it is one less team who could trade for Garoppolo. Now, to me, I actually think this is a really good thing for us because I think now it presents a very obvious opportunity for the Browns to trade for Garoppolo. Because here's the thing, I think we're all expecting Deshaun Watson to be suspended at least 1 year, if not longer. Not to get into the details of all that, but the Browns are a team that are built to win right now. They have a lot of good players. I don't think they're going to put out Jacoby Brissett and count on him to win games. So they need a quarterback. They have a ton of cap space. They have like $48 million now. So they could trade for Garoppolo, win some games, and then Garoppolo has 1 year left in his deal. Then they can just move on to Deshaun Watson the year after. I would happily take like a middle round pick for next year's draft for Jimmy. And then I think it's everybody wins. The Browns get a quarterback who can win some games. We get some compensation for Garoppolo. We get his contract off the books. And yeah, there we go. We move on to Trey Lance officially. So that's the big thing that I think that's really happened with the Niners too. I know some other things have come up as well, but yeah, that's I think the big news.
Yeah, and I want to talk more about that situation. Get more into detail about the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. I will say this before we talk about Jimmy and everything else is that the question is going to be, people are going to wait what happens. And again, I am not a lawyer. I'm not a legal person, and I'm not going to make any assumptions. He's dealing with legal stuff. I think we all saw that he was going to be suspended from the league. We just don't know what that's going to be. Basically, the team is going to give out their little sentence in the league. So many Browns fans popped in my show on Wednesday, and many Browns fans are expecting 6 to 8 weeks. And they, and this is what the Browns fans and some of the podcasts are saying. They may not need Jimmy's service, but we'll touch into that and more. And then a lot of people are also saying he could be suspended for a year. So the Browns are going to be a team that people are going to keep an eye on as they get closer and closer to training camp. So I really, really agree with that. So that is what's on your mind. Let's continue moving on with some sad news before we start the show. The 49ers mourn the passing of former 49ers quarterback Jimmy Williams. So for many people who do not know this name or do not know who this player is, I was a little bit caught off guard, did not know a lot about him, but I will say a few things about him that I found. Basically, former player in Vanderbilt, played Vanderbilt for I think like 3 or 4 seasons from 1998 to 2000. So 3 seasons with Vanderbilt. He was basically elected freshman All SEC and All SEC honors in the same year. He was mostly a kickoff and cornerback, punt returner, kickoff returner. Played some running back in Vanderbilt, and basically when he finished his time in Vanderbilt, uh, led the team in many kickoff and punt categories. He played in several teams, but he was drafted as a sixth rounder by Buffalo. Buffalo cut him. The Niners picked him up in 2000. From 2001 to 2004, played in 50 games with the 49ers, 87 career tackles, one forced fumble, three fumble recoveries, six pass deflections. As I mentioned, he was drafted by Buffalo in the sixth round, but he played with the Niners. Then after in 2005, went to Seattle and finished his career with the Texans in 2008. He was a primary kickoff returner in the NFL. Your thoughts, Shifty? First of all, do you know who this player was? And just if you want to give any thoughts about this very sad story.
I remember him vaguely. It's I don't know too many specifics about him, but I do remember him a little bit on those early 2000s teams. I remember a couple of plays in that 2002 season where we ultimately went to the playoffs and beat the Giants that year. But hey, at the end of the day, it's always sad when there's someone who has like an untimely passing and someone who has connections with the franchise. And as you said, played in 50 games, so that's significant. That's what 3 seasons worth. So yeah, obviously, sad news, for in 49er land today about that. And hopefully his family and friends and all that. Hopefully they're all doing good. But yeah.
All right, let's go to the comments. Spy Nick Danger says buzz about Jimmy G to the Buccaneers. Oh, okay. Have not heard anything about that, but I will check out that information. Don't know if you heard anything about those rumors. All right, Fia Lua 60 said yes. I've seen that one about Jimmy to the Buccaneers. That's a really good. That's something very interesting. CG says yo, our boy CG Ruthless. How are you doing?
CG.
And he says Vanderbilt cornerback we drafted in the 6th round in 2021. He was drafted by Buffalo, and Buffalo cut him, and then we picked him up. So he was not drafted by the 49ers. So I did some quick little homework, but he was not drafted. But again, he was a punt returner, kickoff returner, does not have the big stats to play. Again, he's not the notable name like most players in that era. But it's very sad because I remember last year around this time, another 49er, a more bigger name, I forgot his name, played for the 49ers during Singletary and Harbaugh days. Great impact player. Finished his career with New Orleans. Came back to the 49ers as a consultant, and we lost him again too young. So it's kind of very difficult. Back-to-back years, we lose players just before the start of training camp, which is very, very sad. So it's never, ever good news to hear about. And he was only 43 years old, so still very young, in my opinion.
Very untimely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Paris Harrelson maybe who passed away last year.
That's the name. Yeah. All right. Fia Lewis says Watson will be suspended for more than a year if he wants to take every argument. Let's try not to make any too much negativity about that situation. Let's keep it positive. CG says very solid corner, not flashy on the stats, but was capable to play if injuries happened. Brian says I like his number 23, and Carcass says Jimmy G every other corner. Carcass, what a great joke. Spy Nick, I think, has a question for us. Do you trust Lynch Shanahan to give Lance a strong O-line? What are your thoughts about this question? This is a very interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for a quarterback, for any quarterback, but especially one who's really young, still figuring himself out, to get a good offensive line in front of him is really important. So, I think overall we have a pretty good start. We have the best left tackle in football, and I don't think there's any question about that. Hopefully, fingers crossed that Mike McGlinchey is coming back healthy and can keep doing his thing, especially in the run game. Overall, I really do like Daniel Brunskill. I think he's someone who's, I think Could we upgrade from him? Sure, but I think he's really solid, can play a ton of positions. At right guard, I like him and McGlinchey there together. The coaching staff clearly has a lot of faith in Aaron Banks, last year's second round pick. And it looks like he's in great shape coming into, training camp this year. The big question, of course, is at center. Alex Mack retiring. We have Jake Brendel. We have a couple of rookies. But at the end of the day, I remember, I can't remember, well, I remember reading it, but I can't remember who said it, that, we went to the Super Bowl in 2019 and our center was Ben Garland and our right guard was Mike Person. None of those guys are making Pro Bowls or anything like that. So I think we have a really good scheme. I think we have a scheme that plays to the strengths of our guys, good coaching staff too. So, the fact that we have really solid tackles, especially Trent Williams, and we have guys who are athletic and can play. I think we have a good offensive line. I wouldn't say it's a top 5 in the league as the offensive line as a whole. But I think it's good, and I think it's good enough to get the job done. I do think there will be some games where Trey Lance is going to have to run around and do some magic with his legs, but we'll see. I think Shanahan knows how to scheme to help out our offensive line.
All right. Fialua says, here's his dream offensive line: Williams, Banks, West, Poe, McGlinchey / Moore. What do you think about this lineup?
I could see a lineup like this maybe in 2023. I don't think they would go with this lineup this year just because, of course you have Trent Williams, but Banks didn't start a game last year. So he's essentially, in terms of play time, he's a rookie. West is a rookie. Poe is a rookie. To start 3 rookies on the interior offensive line, I think would be kind of not the best thing to do. So I would tend to go a little bit more with some guys who played a little, I would for sure go with Brunskill at right guard. I think, we see what he can do against Aaron Donald, and I think he's solid at right guard. But, hopefully guys like Donovan West, even Poe, or whoever else could push Jake Brendel for that starting center. But I think Shanahan is going to go with the guys who've been around the league for a lot longer, just because that's kind of what he does at center, That's just kind of his thing.
Spy Nick Danger said, thoughts on 49ers running backs? And if I have to rank one, and I think we're going to carry 5 running backs to Kyle Juszczyk, so we'll have 6 backs, but Kyle Juszczyk is a fullback, so I'm going to leave him off the list. Elijah Mitchell looks to be the number 1 guy. He proved it last year. He's a 1,000-yard rusher. He's a good bell cow. I do worry about how much Kyle is going to use them because they do use, the running backs a lot. We have Trey Sermon, Jeff Wilson. Hopefully if Jeff Wilson is healthy and is still able to do what he did in 2020, he'll probably be number 2. We have Trey Sermon. We have Hasty on the roster. We also have the Davis Price or Price Davis, always mix, the 2 last names. So we have depth, and then we also have some undrafted free agents. So I do think we're going to carry 5 running backs because for whatever the reason our running backs get hurt, hopefully this year our running back can stay healthy and just have enough depth there, because I don't want to what happened last year. The running backs got hurt and we had to use Debo in the way that we should not have used. So that's my thoughts on the running back. What are your thoughts on the running backs?
Yeah, I think you covered all the good points right there. Ultimately, I think, look, we drafted, Tyrion Davis Price in the 3rd round. I think the goal would be my guess is that we want to keep Mitchell healthy. I think we want to use Mitchell less than what we used him last year, but hopefully more effectively. So instead of Elijah Mitchell running 25 times, I think we'll try and get him 15 runs, but that way we kind of keep him healthy and he's there for every game. And then guys like Tyrion Davis Price, Jeff Wilson, Trey Sermon, maybe on those short down, 3rd and 1 goal line situations, maybe those guys kind of step in for that situation. The other thing too, which you mentioned, is that, a lot of our guys got hurt. So Debo ran the ball a lot. And I do think that we're going to scale that back in a big way. in terms of Deebo Samuel running the ball. I think we'll still see it, a little bit, but definitely not as much as what we saw last year. So having those guys, and I think that was really when I didn't really know much about Davis Price when we drafted him. When we did draft him, I was stunned. I was like, who the hell is this guy? But watching some videos and things like that, he seems like a bit of like a bruiser, like likes contact. And so I think complements Elijah Mitchell well. But yeah, I think we have some good running backs, and the Shanahan scheme is just, so good that when you have guys who are fearless, who just run the ball, who, just they're like physical and aggressive, that they do well. So yeah, hopefully our guys stay healthy, as you said, and just do our thing.
All right, so Nick has a lot of questions. So let's try to get this question so we continue moving on with the show because we have a lot to talk about. Nick says, who will be Trey's top receiving target? And I'm going to keep this short and sweet. This offseason, Trey has been working with Jawan Jennings. He's been working with Brandon Ayuk. He's been working with Danny Gray. He's been working with Ray McLeod. Deebo has not been participating in the voluntary, let's say the word voluntary workouts, where he's not supposed to, work out because it's voluntary. He did show up to the mandatory mini camp, but he didn't really do a lot of the activity. So he's been working with all the other wide receivers. At the moment, I don't want to say just because he's working with the other receivers that Deebo is not his favorite target. But again, during preseason training camp, I do think Deebo will get a contract, and they'll start working together. So we'll see how the season goes. So it's hard for me to determine who's his top receiver. But he's been working with the receivers that have been in camp with him. That's my simple answer with that. All right, now let's talk about the main story. Jimmy Garoppolo trade rumors news. And I actually, for those who do not know, I write on a little freelance blog called Medium. The link is in my description, so you can check out my article. Not the best writer. I'm not the perfect writer, but I put some of my thoughts and my opinions. But I think you've heard about this, Shifty. I think you did a video about it. I watched it. But let's talk about what happened with Baker Mayfield, and what does the Baker Mayfield trade mean for the 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo? So I wanted to get your thoughts first about this situation that happened just a few days ago.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised a little bit that, no, I don't know if maybe we've been talking to the Panthers as well, but I'm surprised that they would want to potentially go with Baker over Garoppolo. I mean, if there's one thing that Carolina needs to do, because they've had a couple of okay years, but they need to win some football games. And we know that Jimmy, whether it's, because of him or in spite of him, but he wins football games. So I'm surprised they wouldn't have wanted to make a move for Jimmy. Maybe they did, and we were like, we're not interested. But interesting trade. Of course, the Browns really didn't get much back in return. A 2024 fifth-round pick that could turn into a fourth. So not a huge compensation there. Plus, the Browns are eating most of his contract. But here's the thing, you can look at it in that way. Oh, hey, now the Panthers are off the board, so that's one less team. But what I was saying a little bit earlier in this stream is that I really think that this presents a new opportunity, a new trade partner, which are the Cleveland Browns. They're a team that they have a lot of good players. They, of course, want to win right now. I think, we'll see what happens with Deshaun Watson, but assuming he gets some kind of a suspension, for those issues, I think it would be smart for them to inquire about Garoppolo. And because, look, they have some good weapons there in Cleveland. They picked up Amari Cooper. They have David Njoku at tight end. Donovan Peoples-Jones looked good as a rookie. They have a really good defense, a lot of good players in their defense. So, and they have a tough division too. Cincinnati are good. Baltimore are good. Pittsburgh, great defense. We'll see how Kenny Pickett is. But, I think Cleveland need a quarterback. And I think putting out Jacoby Brissett or someone like that's just not going to work. So I think it opens up a new opportunity for us. And ultimately, if I were to be asked and put on the spot, if I would go to the Browns and say, hey, look, 2023, so next year, a fifth round pick, and that maybe bumps up to a fourth round pick if Jimmy plays a certain amount of games or wins a certain amount of games, and then if they take on most of his contract, not all of it, I think we'll have to eat some of it, but I think I'd take on some of it or most of it, and then I think it's a win-win for everybody, and it's an interesting situation. I just don't see. I know there's been comments, and I read a little bit. There was a Twitter post about Garoppolo to the Bucks, and I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know why the Bucks would. I mean, they have Brady, and I don't know. I think Browns now. It's either Browns or else ultimately I think we're going to cut him with a very slim chance that we hold on to him.
All right. Thank you very much, Spy Nick Danger. He said, great job. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Brian says, Shifty, do you think Trey Sermon is on his way out? Wow.
No, I don't think so. I mean, look, he didn't have a great rookie year, but let's give him another chance. We'll see how he does this year. And he's got some pretty stiff competition. Elijah Mitchell, of course. We drafted Tyrion Davis-Price. And so, hopefully he steps up and we just have a bunch of great running backs. So, I don't think he's on his way out yet, but we'll see.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, there's a little blog, it's called Medium. Again, the link is in the description to all my contacts, my Instagram, if you want to follow me there, my Medium, and of course my YouTube channel. But one thing that, happened was Baker Mayfield. Let's look at Baker Mayfield and compare it to Jimmy Garoppolo. So Baker Mayfield went to the Cleveland Browns, a team previously in 2 seasons, only won 1 game in 2 seasons. That was pitiful. Bad organization, bad management, bad general managers. Their ownership is garbage. I'm sorry to say this. They have great owners with a lot of money. The same thing with the Jets. Great owner with a lot of money. They can never get things done in those organizations. So I'm sorry that I had to be real there for those organizations. But Baker Mayfield is not the number 1 pick overall. He was the 4th ranked quarterback in everyone's list. And for whatever the reason, it was Sam Darnold until 24 hours later, something mysteriously happened. He was drafted number 1. So put in a very tough spot, a lot of expectations, came in there, had a good rookie year. I think he missed like 4 games. And one of the games, actually 2 of the games, Tyrod Taylor was the starter. So technically he only missed 2 games with injuries compared to Jimmy Garoppolo, who was highly paid, came to the 49ers, missed 25 games compared to a team that was very garbage. Our team was also not really good at the time. So that's a little bit of a similarity. Jimmy has a better resume, a Super Bowl appearance, 2 NFC title appearances, and an NFC title victory during this time with San Francisco. But again, the injury, number 1 pick compared to a number 2 pick, he sat behind one of the best quarterbacks, so he took his time compared to Baker Mayfield. So those are basically some, information that I wanted to say. The next thing is Baker Mayfield was a number 1 pick overall. He got traded, and he was making $18.5 million. Jimmy Garoppolo, $24 million, is a salary, but the cap hit is about $27.5 million. The Panthers are only paying $9 million, and the Browns are paying $9.5 million. It was an $18.5 million 5th-year option. So you're seeing, and then the compensation. So compared to Baker Mayfield, healthier, was in the team. There was a lot of BS that happened in those 4 seasons with the Browns. So at the end of the day, I felt that the Browns got, they got played to keep it, very simple. You got played, and I'm sorry, but that's just a fact. So now let's look at Jimmy Garoppolo. He's coming off of surgery. He's not throwing the football yet. So we're getting closer and closer to training camp. The Browns, we have to see what's going to happen with that situation. If Deshaun Watson is not suspended for an entire year, even though a lot of people are anticipating it, they're like, you know what, we can ride with Jacoby Brissett, and then Deshaun Watson will come back in. Or if that's not the place, do the Texans and the Seattle Seahawks have interest? We do not know. Are they going to ride with those quarterbacks just to tank? We do not know. So it's looking more and more, and I know I could be wrong. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it's looking more and more that Jimmy in training camp, he's still going to be on the roster. Will he be cut? Will he be traded? Will he be on the roster during the season? We don't know. And it's a very hard, complicated situation. But that's just my thoughts about that. It's a very, very confusing situation in just my opinion. So that's what I have to say about that.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a lot. There's a lot of factors to go in. So you're right. It's complicated, and we'll see what happens. That's all we can do is wait and see.
Mm-hmm. Thea Louis says it will be Samuel Gray and Kittle. Samuel Gray with 1,000 yards, and Ayuk and Kittle will not. Ooh, wow, that's going to be almost 5,000 yards. We'll see if that happens. So Thea Lua with the strong confidence. Brian says the Niners don't want less than a third round for Jimmy, and that's another thing, that the price tag is really high, really, really high. So we'll see what happens. But again, we're getting closer and closer because training camp, I think the 24th, the teams that play the Hall of Fame game need to come in there to practice a little bit extra because they're going to be playing one extra preseason game. So around that time, and I think the week of the 26th is when the Niners are supposed to report. So we'll see how that goes. Brian says, supposedly Tom wants to reunite with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's so funny how the quarterback was like, get him out of New England. Now he wants him back. Oh, man, I don't know. And Sermon is the next Carlos Hyde. Ooh.
Interesting. They both went to Ohio State.
All right. Now let's talk about a big story that everyone's been talking about the entire 24 hours. And I think this is a very controversial topic. But again, this is just a reminder of how the media operates. So I am not the biggest fan of Colin Cowherd. I'm not a fan of Mike Silver. I don't know if he works for the Bay Area or if he works for some NFL media company, but that's, the media there. So Colin Cowherd and Mike Silver talk 49ers Trey Lance. And during the interview, he said something very controversial that I don't know what it means. So I want to pose a question to you. They said Trey Lance has arm fatigue during practices. So I don't know what this means, and I don't know what they're saying. Again, there is no football, and they're just trying to make up stories. And again, many people wonder, why is Jimmy still on the roster? Is there something wrong with Trey? And a lot of people probably, are a little bit short-sighted, but Jimmy has a shoulder injury. Teams are not going to invest for that. But let me know if you heard about this interview. Did you watch it? And what are your thoughts about this very, very outrageous comment?
Yeah, well, I think you're spot on. I think it's outrageous. I did hear about it a little bit. I just think it's kind of silly talk. As you said, I think it's the media. That's just, they got nothing else to talk about. They're wondering, as you said, that why is Garoppolo still on the roster? Why haven't they got rid of him? And I don't know. I did see another quote that came out. I think it was today or yesterday that they spoke with someone within the 49ers, and they were like, we don't know what the hell you're talking about with this arm fatigue. So at the end of the day, I think it's just, people looking for something to talk about when there's nothing else to talk about. When you talk about football, especially quarterbacks, especially for teams like playoff teams like the 49ers, you're probably going to get clicks, you're going to get views. And I think that's more the reason than anything else why this has been brought up. I don't know. Maybe at the end of a practice, Trey mentioned he was tired. I don't know. It seems really silly. And I don't know where it would have come from. If there is some sort of truth to it, I'd be very curious as to what it's about. But I just think it's just a bunch of nonsense,
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, probably less than a month ago, Colin Cowherd was talking about how good Trey Lance is, how good he is. And then the following week, he says Trey Lance is not good no more. And then again, oh, he's good. And it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And for whatever the reason, this is what the media does. This is what the media is supposed to do. For those who do not work for the media, and I'm even talking about our own Bay Area media, football is the only sport that has 6 months of, training camp, preseason football, regular season, and playoffs. And then there's a 3-month period where there is no games going on, but there is free agency, the combine, and the draft. After the draft, there is nothing to talk about May, they usually talk a few weeks about ranking the draft, and after that, it slowly gets boring and boring and boring. And then any big news that pops up, they jump on it so they can get to talk about something. It's so funny how baseball, basketball during that time is going on, but for whatever the reason, football still drives during the entire year. So the media needs something to talk about. They need things to talk about. And of course, just like any news outlet, not just sports, they need to write a topic and make it controversial. That's the thing about the newspaper business, and that's why there's a term that most people who taught me. It's not about the facts that most people care about; is what people are going to buy and read. That's going to make someone buy it. So that's a little thing about the news business for those who don't know that. Now, besides that long, boring stuff, yes, clicks do drive, views. Oh my gosh, Trey Lance isn't good at practices. He's horrible. And then you have a lot of people say, okay, we need to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's really media driven. So that's all I want to say about this. But just remember, when everyone talked about Mac Jones, why was Mac Jones not drafted to the 49ers? Oh, it was the 49er fans. And they made it very personal. And I don't want to use the certain word because they try to insinuate, certain things that it's just disgusting, very disgusting. So that's why I'm not even going to talk about that. So it's just sad that that's how people think on the internet and just people who love to read stuff. But that's about it about this story. All right, let's talk about something very quick. This is not a big, interesting story, but everyone has been talking about it. Everyone's been talking on Twitter. Everyone's talking about Facebook, YouTube, and also. So, for those who still don't know, uh, John Madden, who is from Daly City, where I'm from, great man. He created the Madden football franchise. So they have a club called the 99 Club, which I don't understand, but for some people, it's a very big deal. So Trent Williams is one of the members of the 99 Club. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Is this a story to even talk about? And do you know about the NFL Madden series?
Yeah, I played Madden a lot growing up. Honestly, and I don't think this is super controversial. The game has not been good for a while. The last couple years, or the first couple years that I haven't bought the game, but overall, as a series, love it, and I think it's great that something like this, it really recognizes just how good a player like Trent Williams is. A lot of even though maybe I don't play it, like a lot of kids who are growing up and they play the video games and stuff, and they'll play Madden, and being able to recognize and see that, they might get more interested in things like the offensive line and Trent Williams and what his history is about and things like that. So because he's been through a lot, and but at the end of the day, I think when it comes to Trent Williams, is I don't know if there's a more fun offensive lineman to watch. I mean, what he does to some defensive players is just crazy, and just how athletic he is. I'm that has to be, honestly, I think that trade for Trent Williams. We remember Joe Staley retired, and then within like a day or so, we traded for Trent Williams. And I think for Niner fans, this will be controversial, but I think Trent Williams overall might be a better left tackle than Joe Staley. But man, that guy is special, and I think that's one of like the best trades in like recent history, to get a guy like him for like a couple of mid-round picks. So yeah, good for him to get recognition, and he's a fantastic, fantastic player.
Yeah, and like I grew up playing Madden. Basically, one thing that I did do as a kid. I'm not a video game person. I think I'm the wrong person to ask about video games, but there were a few games that I've played, and one of them was Madden. And I got into Madden because my neighborhood friends, the kids in the neighborhood, there was always that kid. I remember during the PlayStation and then the PlayStation 2, 3. I've been around long enough to see the transition from one game console to another one. I remember when Xbox came out, etc. And Madden was a game that all the kids, like if you had Madden, you were the person people went to their homes and played. And I had so many Madden competitions with my friends growing up. I miss those days, but it just shows how old I am. But I again, Madden is just a game. I don't really take it very serious. Like with these overall ratings. But Trent Williams is a great player, and he is rewarded with how good he is. So besides all these ratings, because I know players, they're the ones who care more about the ratings. I think fans don't really care a lot about the ratings, but it's mostly the players that care about the ratings. And uh, I want to give shout out to Trent Williams, like the hard work that he's done to get this 99 club. I don't know if he's ever been a 99 before, but yeah, Trent Williams. I don't care about Bakhtiari or whatever the left tackles are in the NFL. Trent Williams, best left tackle. And I'm sorry if the Bears fan is watching. Robert Quinn, who's one of your premier players, sorry, you cannot stop Trent Williams. So I don't care how good he had last year because every year is different. So I wanted to open up a little wound with that.
Love it. Love it.
All right. Brian says Mac didn't get drafted to the Niners because of his DUI. Yes, and yeah, I will say this: during the draft process, that there was like 4 issues that were swept under the rug about Mac Jones. Again, I am not a legal person, but there were 4 situations. One of the situations could have been something way more serious. Again, I'm not going to make any assumptions, but when you're in college, I don't know if you went to college, Shifty, but I went to college. And when you're in college, there are a lot of things that, a lot of, young people do that they should not be doing. But I went to college and there was just a lot of dumb things that happened over there. So I will say that Mac Jones, even if he had one little tiny issue, the Niners do not draft players with those concerns. Reuben Foster, he did not do anything illegal, didn't do anything wrong. He had a lot of personal issues off the field, and the Niners just got sick and tired of him, and they left him in Tampa Bay. So, Mac Jones, if he had that, that DUI, that's a serious, serious offense. So, but the Niners do not bring bad character players, even if they're good. That's something the Niners don't do. All right. Let's move on to something that I want to get your thoughts on. And I did 2 videos this week. I did a Tuesday video. I wanted to do a Wednesday video, but Wednesday had some breaking news. So yesterday I did the defense, and I also did the offense on Tuesday. So let's talk about this defense and offense. We'll start with the defense first. How good is the 2022 San Francisco defense? And before we start off, I wanted to say some notable players. Of course, the face of the defensive line is Nick Bosa. You look at the players right next to him. The linebackers, I don't have to say anything about the linebackers. We have a good free agent corner that we drafted, Charvarius Ward, and of course, Jimmy Ward in the safety. Those are some key players to spotlight. Talk about the defense and other players that I have not mentioned with the defense, and let me know how good this defense is.
Well, I think the defense should be really, really good this year. Obviously, coordinated by D'Amico Ryans going into his second year. So he has that year under his belt, but not only a year. I mean, we did also play in 3 playoff games. So he actually has, including preseason, about 23 games or so that he has coordinated the defense. So I think he definitely found his groove, as the season went along. So I think he's really pumped up. And to think about this, last year, our defense, especially the secondary, was decimated with injuries. So the defense should be really good, especially the secondary. Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Mosley, Ambry Thomas got a whole bunch of experience last year. Jason Verrett, although, this year we're not counting on him. He's just, hey, if he can play, great. Last year we were counting on him. That was obviously a mistake. We have so many other cornerbacks who can play. Jimmy Ward, I think, is one of the more underrated players probably in the NFL. And we'll see what happens at strong safety. Our linebackers, easily the best linebacking core in the NFL. I don't think any team really comes that close. And then our defensive line. Just look at our edge rushers. So Nick Bosa, like you mentioned, face of the defensive line. We got Kerry Hyder, who we brought him back, when with the 49ers in 2020. He had 8.5 sacks. We have Charles Omenihu, who was really coming into his own, Samson Ebukam, who really was, I mean, you look at Ebukam, like the last few playoff games, the last couple of games of the year, he was fantastic. And then Kimoko Ture, we have Jordan Willis. I mean, the names, I'm talking, we're 6-7 guys deep at edge, which is crazy to think about. Oh, and also our second round pick, Drake Jackson, who looks like an athletic freak. So that's awesome as well. Then we look at the interior of the defensive line. This is like one of the big question marks, is that I thought last year DJ Jones was one of our best players on defense. Of course, he's in Denver now. So this is a big year for Javon Kinlaw. You know, he needs to come out and show why he was a first round pick. If he can do that, playing beside a guy like Eric Armstead, we bring back Maurice Hurst, we signed Hassan Ridgeway, we bring back Kevin Givens. So there's just a lot of names. And I think we're just really, really deep. And that's the overall, the way that I would describe our defense, is that we have star players. We have Nick Bosa, we have Fred Warner, star players, like arguably the best of their position. And then beyond that, we are really, really deep. So I think we should be set up for a really good year. And I really can't wait to see, you know, what D'Amico dials up with all these weapons that he has on defense, especially having a good secondary. Like last year, it was driving me crazy with Josh Norman getting pass interference calls every play. Drake Kirkpatrick getting run over by running backs. It was tough to watch. But this year we have so many good players. We drafted like 3 cornerbacks. So yeah, I think we should be looking good this year. Defense should be really, really solid.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I know that the Chicago Bear fan, he believes 31 points on us, and let's not laugh at that. I know it's very silly and funny, but you look at last year, what happened last year. It wasn't until the Green Bay game where we got back Emmanuel Mosley, and in week 1 we lost Jason Verrett. Greenlaw, after week 1, I think had groin injury or hamstring, out for 6 to 8 weeks, came back in the Minnesota game, was not healthy. But these guys are now healthy. Let's look at what we did in the secondary. We added a lot of secondary. For the first time, the Niners have to make some tough choices who they're going to cut, who they're going to keep, who's going to be the number one. And you just said it. Jason Verrett is no longer a guy that we have to rely on every single down because Ambry Thomas stamped up. Emmanuel Mosley is going to be healthy. Charvarius Ward, Diamador Lenore, no one's talking about him. Then you talk about Tyree Castro Fields, who we drafted, Jason Verrett. So that's a good depth there. And all the other corners we got undrafted free agents. Our secondary, our safety room is packed this year. And let's look at the linebackers. Fred Warner, there's a reason why he's called All-Pro Fred for a reason. He's not just called that because he's cool. No, he earned it. Dre Greenlaw, when healthy, is a good outside linebacker. And then Aziz Al-Shir had the best year last year. And Nick Bosa, there's just so much talent on that defensive side of the ball. When I look at the defense, I think we have the solid defense when it comes to the deepest roster on the defensive side. I think we're the deepest roster because we just have so many players. And again, once cut dates happen, some players will be put in the practice squad. Some players are going to be forced that we have to cut them, not because they're bad, because there's no room. So we have a good defense. Where do we rank? That's a good question. I think I want to start off in the top 10 and see if we can get better and better as the year goes on. And then D'Amico Ryan is getting his second season in the books. And he's already has 1 year. The second year, he's going to be a better coach. Let's just keep it with that. All right.
100%. 100%.
All right. Now we're talking about the 49ers offense, and I did a very, very good video. There were, I think, 7 players who are complementary players, offensive, starters, and some great stars on the team. I don't need to say anything. I just want to know your thoughts, how this offense is set up with all the players and the depth.
Well, I think overall for Trey Lance coming into a situation, it's ultimately going to depend on how good is Trey Lance. I think at the very least, he should be as good as what Garoppolo was last year, at the very least, and maybe even better, hopefully. But when you think about all the weapons that we have, it's great. You know, he's coming into a great situation. We talked about all our running backs that we have right now. We have, of course, our wide receiver room, you know, Debo, Ayuk, Jawan Jennings. We drafted Danny Gray, the speedy receiver, Ray McLeod. We have all these weapons. And of course, arguably the best tight end in football, George Kittle as well, with a decent offensive line. And then, you know what? We probably have, you could argue, the best play calling offensive, coach in the NFL. So the offense, I think we should be, if we're not top 15, I'd be stunned. But I think there's really some good potential here simply because, Trey Lance, I don't want him to run the ball too much. Like when I saw that game last year against Arizona at Arizona, I can't remember how many times Trey Lance ran the ball, but he took so many big hits. I don't want him to do that. I kind of think that in terms of his running ability, it should be similar to how Seattle used Russell Wilson. It's like, look for the pass, look for the pass, look for the pass. And then if everything breaks down, then get out of there with your legs and, pick up some yards. But that's a whole other dimension that we didn't have with Garoppolo. I mean, Garoppolo made a couple of plays with his legs, but he wasn't dynamic, not like Trey Lance. So, it's hard to say what the offense is even going to look like, because I think that we're going to see us probably pass the ball deep a lot more because Trey Lance is a much stronger arm than Jimmy Garoppolo. We saw the touchdown pass to Deebo Samuel against the Texans. Like the ball got there in a second. Whereas if that was Jimmy Garoppolo throwing the ball, the ball would be sailing and all that kind of stuff. So I think Kyle Shanahan is honestly, he's just going to be so excited to have just so many guys who can do so many different things. Like if you put out a lineup, right? And let's say if you have Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, Juszczyk, and Elijah Mitchell, if you have those 5 guys on the field with Trey Lance, I mean, you could run any kind of play and the defense wouldn't know what to do. Like maybe, Juszczyk splits out wide and then you're passing the ball, but then Trey Lance fakes the handoff and run. Like there's just so many options that you can do. And I think now Shanahan has the full off season with Trey Lance, training camp. I think right now they're probably him and Anthony Lynn and those guys on the offensive coaching staff are coming up with so many crazy fun plays that we're going to see some interesting things. Like, hey, look, a year ago, did we know that Deebo Samuel could run with the football? Sure. But who would have thought a year ago that Deebo Samuel would be, a great running back as well? So expect a few crazy things. And I just really can't wait to see what it is. How good is the offense? It's going to depend on Trey Lance. And so it's hard to say. It's definitely a mystery. So.
Mm-hmm. So before I give you my thoughts, my boy Rudy is in the building, also known the Remilia Sports Report, diehard Rams fan. He says, props, John Jay. Question for you and your guest. Any worries about the reports arm fatigue on Trey Lance? We talked about that. Do you want to let Rudy know what were your thoughts about that story?
I have no worries about it. I think he'll be just fine.
Very simple answer. And also, he says Niners have full edge rush room. That's true. Running back, D-line depth, but it's amazing. Cal hasn't really addressed the O-line and got good backup quarterback. Kyle seems surprised Mac retired. What are you guys think about that? Rudy with the very, very interesting questions. Do you want to respond to Rudy's question?
Yeah, I'll respond real quick. I mean, when it comes to the offensive line, I'd mentioned it like briefly earlier that we made the Super Bowl in 2019 with Ben Garland at center and with Mike Person at right guard. I mean, I think Jake Brendel, Daniel Brunskill are at least as good as those guys. But not only that, like people talk about, Laken Tomlinson. He was seen as a bust in Detroit. He comes here, he gets good coaching, he gets a scheme that he fits well, and then he's suddenly making big money with the Jets. So the Niners clearly have a lot of faith in Aaron Banks. Of course, we don't know how good he actually will be necessarily, but I think it speaks volumes that the Niners were okay with letting Laken Tomlinson go. But yeah, a little bit worried about the offensive line, but I think we'll manage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At the end of the day, like I said, when it comes to our coach Kyle, like this was brought up, Kyle does what the what he wants to do. Doesn't care if it pisses off John Lynch, the ownership, or the fans. That's the reason why Kyle is the way who he is. It's never going to change, no matter if people know what's the right thing for the team. If he feels something different, that's Kyle. We do have a lot of edge rushers. We got a lot of running backs. And we have a lot of depth. There's a lot of players right now on the D line, but we have to cut it down to 9 players. So we'll see how they do that. And I'm not worried about what Kyle does because Kyle's going to do whatever he wants, even if I disagree with that. Now, let's talk about the offense, and let me say my opinion. Okay, Jimmy Garoppolo, let's put him and let's put Trey Lance on the sidelines for this take. Let's look at on the offensive line. Just like we talked about the defense. Trent Williams is the face of that offensive line. Considered the best. We talked about it. I know the Madden rankings don't really mean a thing, but let's be really serious. Trent Williams is really good. We're going to see Aaron Banks, who's an interior offensive line player. Played center, played guard. Looks like he's going to be the guard. Jake Brendel and Brunskill looks like that's going to be the interior. That's the only question mark that I have. Mike McGlinchey is not as bad as most people think, and he does have issues on the pass game. And I'm very, very, very critical when it comes to Mike McGlinchey, but he's not bad in the run game. So we run the ball a lot. So that's really good there. Then you look at our running backs. Elijah Mitchell, one name. Then you look at the wide receivers. Let's not even talk about Debo, but let's look at who's behind Debo. Brandon Ayuk is a good complementary, good quality receiver. We drafted Danny Gray, who Jimmy Ward said during OTAs, off-season workouts, this dude is fast. If I cannot catch him, who can? Now, I don't know if he's just saying that because maybe Danny Gray is way better than Jimmy Ward, but we'll see how that goes. Jawan Jennings could be a number 2 guy, another solid piece. And then we have Ray McLeod. And we haven't even talked about George Kittle. It shows you for the first time we have depth at the wide receiver, but George Kittle is really good at all the aspects that he's supposed to do as a blocker, potential runner who does not run the ball a lot, but he's a good pass catcher. And we have a good fullback that's a Swiss Army knife. This is an offense that is very, very packed with depth, just like in the defense. There's so much depth. And one thing that's true in the NFL, when you have too many weapons, the numbers of all your good weapons are going to drop, and one player is going to get the bulk of the ball. So a lot of the players, if Debo's double team, Brandon Ayuk. If Brandon Ayuk and Debo are double team, you have George Kittle. If George Kittle's double team, Jawan Jennings. It's just so many weapons. And if Trey Lance needs to run with the ball, he could run with the ball. So it's going to be a very dynamic offense the way I look at it. So, again, I think our team is good. But, again, we need to see what we do week 1 against the Bears. And that's going to be a game that we have to showcase how good this team is, because that Bears fan, he's having fun already that they're going to beat us. So that's my thoughts about the offense.
It's a good take. It's a good take, man.
All right. Rudy says, great stream, John Jay, checking in from work. All right. Have a good day at work. Thanks for tuning in for the moments. David says, it's Niners all day, all damn day. Bears going down week 1. Yes, apparently he's also been messing with David. Oh, I missed the question. I'm asking because if you remember the NFC Championship game, the Niners whole line, even with Tomlinson, Mac couldn't keep the Rams pass rushers in the last 10 minutes of the game. What was told to me that in the final 10 minutes of the game, they were putting a full blitz, like full-on blitz, like the linebackers were lining up. They were taking away the run game. And Kyle, for whatever the reason, didn't adjust. He did not adjust. So when you have 7 players lining up on the box and you have your corners and safeties playing tight on the receivers, they're taking all the aspects away. So it's not because, the pass, rush. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. I was speaking to a high school coach who coaches a Bay Area team, not in the city, but outside the city. And he says every time a defensive coordinator on the opposing team lines up a full front 7 and lines up his secondary 10 yards and less, It's a full-on blitz. So what does he have to do? He has to adjust. So the best coaches should know how to adjust. So I'm saying that Kyle basically made a bunch of mistakes not adjusting to that. And Jimmy Garoppolo was making some quality passes that were just getting the ball moving down, and he was connecting. So he, for whatever the reason, he took that away, and that's what happened. But again, you see it one way, I see it how it's been relayed to me, but that's just how that situation is. All right. All right. Any final comments about our defense and offense before we move on?
No, I think the team's looking good. We're really deep, and I think we should be in for a good year. The other thing too that kind of we don't really talk about it much as well, that should also be a huge improvement, is special teams. Getting the new special teams coordinator, Ray McLeod, George Odom, Oren Burks. These are all special teams guys. And when I think to last year, one of the big things I remember was whenever we would kick the ball away to the opponent, anytime they returned it out, I was scared because I was thinking they could take it all the way, or they were going to get up to like the 30, the 40-yard line. And it happened quite a bit. Our kick coverage was not good by any means. So I'm really hoping that becomes, we fix that. Also, in terms of like the return game, it's been, I think, was it Ted Ginn the last time? No, Richie James had a kick return for a touchdown a few years back, but Ted Ginn was the last time we had a punt return for a touchdown. But just even to have like a decent weapon back there, someone who can actually make things happen. Hopefully Ray McLeod is that guy, and who can really give us better field position, but also make the opponents have a worse field position from our coverage. So, it's one of those parts of the game that we don't talk about until it really, it's make or break time. So whether we need like a clutch kick or whatever, but yeah, I'm seeing some of the comments come through, Brian. That's special teams are really important. And I think we've gone a long way to fixing that. So that's another big improvement, I think, heading into this year as opposed to last season.
Yeah. Yeah. He talked about special teams. And he also says, "Thank you, Shifty. You read my mind." And Brian says, if the Rams didn't have Von Miller, they would have won. Good luck this year. All right. And I think this is a good time to say shout out to everyone for tuning in. But just like all great things, everything has to come to an end. So let's thank Shifty 49ers Talk from his channel, Shifty 49ers Talk, part of the Candlestick Port Report. For those who do not know, Shifty and I, we're from the local city by the bay. But before we go, just like we always do in traditional 49ers Ultimate Report fashion, let the fans know who Shifty is one more time, where they can find you, talk about your YouTube channel and any other social media platforms, and all the things that you do on your channel. Let's thank Shifty. Shifty, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, John. And it's always awesome doing the Candlestick Point Report with you. I also want to give a shout out to the people who come to the stream, leave the comments, and make it like super interactive. It really brings a whole lot to the stream. And then for me, if you search on YouTube for Shifty's 49ers Talk, I will pop right up. Other social medias, I have an Instagram for this channel, for the Shifty's 49ers Talk. It's literally just that, Shifty's 49ers Talk. I do also have a Twitter. It is Kalen, that's Kalen, Kalen's Take. I don't really tweet that often. I kind of use it just to get news, but no harm in throwing that out there. But yeah, definitely check out the YouTube channel. I'm actually going to have a video out later today, so stop by for that. And yeah, thanks again to John, getting me on the show, and we're doing this Candlestick Point Report. It's always a lot of fun to talk 49er football with a guy who's super passionate and knows his stuff about football. So
And Brian says, great show as always. And Brian says, before we go, I think the last question of the day, I think 2018 and 2014, Richie James in 2018. I forgot in 2018, Richie James got
against Seattle, yeah. And then I think Ted Ginn, I think that was against Seattle as well, but I thought that was 2011. But yeah, I might be wrong.
I know, basically, yeah. When it comes to kickoff returns, like in the last 20 seasons, it's very rare to see a kickoff or punt return because for whatever the reason, that doesn't really happen. And usually every team has at least one punt or kick return during the season. For us, it's like every 3 to 4 years before we're able. I don't know why that is the case. But anyway, thank you very much for your comments. But with that said, everybody, this guy right here is John Jay. The guy over here, Shifty Sports Talk. Shifty Sports Talk.
John Jay, the ultimate report.
If you have not heard yet about Shifty, you need to go type in Shifty Niner Talk, subscribe to his channel, watch all this great content. And just like he said, he has a video he's about to post later today. So check out that and all his work. But with that said, everybody, I'm John Jay. This is Shifty. Thank you for the Candlestick Point Report. We're going to be on a few more times during the off season before we end the Gridiron All Day Podcast Network, as the first season didn't go as planned, but it was really, really good. Next year we'll get all the kinks out the way for the off season. But thanks very much for tuning in. Have a good rest of your day. Go Niners. Go.